Welcome to the Jeff Eby Show. Jeff Eby Show, where the talk is all about Dickson County.
So glad you joined us today. I'm Jeff Eby, your host of the Jeff Eby Show, where the talk is all about Dickson County. So we try to bring in as many people from Dickson County as we can to kind of give you information about what goes on in Dickson County. So today, I'm so excited, and I said I bugged him a lot until he came on. But I'm so honored to have former Congressman Bob Clement with us today, and I know you have a rich history here in Dickson and with your dad and everything. So I just appreciate you coming by today and talking with me for a few minutes.
Jeff, I'm most honored to be with you and Matt. This is special, and I've heard a lot of great things about your show, and you've had a lot of great people on the show.
Yeah, we really have. But let's get started a little bit. I kind of want to just give people kind of your background, and I know you were a congressman, but leading up to that, kind of give us a background of where you come from.
Well, my father's from Dickson County,
right?
Frank G. Clement, and graduated from Dickson County High School.
Wow.
And he had a great speech teacher. Many old-timers remember Aunt Docky Weems, who's very special, and Dad went to national oratory and all that. Wow. And that got a big start for him in life, being able to speak. And his enemies used to say, don't ever hear that so-and-so speaker. You may vote for him. But my father, Jeff, was from Dickson, and my mother from Erin, Houston County.
Okay.
And I love them too, and a great family over there, and that's where they taught me how to hunt and fish.
There you go.
Was in Houston County, and then my grandparents here, Robert and Maybelle Clement, and I always call my grandparents by their first name, Robert and Maybelle, Nelson, Vern, and then all the other grandchildren did the same thing, rather than calling them Papa or Granddaddy or Grandmother or whatever, but it worked.
Yeah. Sure.
But then we also had a lot of Kentucky connections, Scottsville, Kentucky. Then that's where my grandmother was from, and Robert and Maybelle met, which is now the Clement Railroad Hotel Museum. And my grandmother and great-grandmother, Belle Gold, managed a railroad hotel. You know, when we had railroad passenger service in Dickson, the train would stop and salesmen get off the train, and they weren't called salesmen at that time. They're called drummers, drumming up business. And they'd stay at the hotel, and then later became the Clement Museum.
Cool. Well, that's a great place here for people to come and visit, and I know you're proud of that whole museum over there.
Yeah, we founded it in June the 2nd, which is my father's birthday. Dad was born June the 2nd, 1920, and so we kicked it off June the 2nd, 2009, and we keep prospering and getting bigger and better
Right.
and all that. And we've got a
Right.
great director, Zach Kinslow, who's from Murray County, from Columbia, and he's got a great staff, Taylor Wise and Jasmine and all that. And so they're sure helping us take the Clement Museum to a new level.
Sure, yeah. We've had Zach on here, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So I've talked to him again maybe about coming back on and giving us some more information. But yeah, that was a really good show. But I've got one tidbit that I want to tell you. My parents have always traditionally voted Republican, and this is my dad's one vote that he said he made for a Democrat, and that was for your dad. You know, that's how much that he crossed party lines and had a lot of support from Republicans and Democrats. It didn't really matter, you know. So, yeah, I thought that was...
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And Dad, particularly, he would make this comment in East Tennessee because back in those days, Tennessee was a Democrat state rather than a Republican state.
Right.
And a lot of Republicans particularly lived and voted in East Tennessee.
Yes.
And Dad got up on the stump and he says, if there's anything as fine and good and pure and true as a Tennessee Democrat, it's a Clement Republican. And even though Dad was a Democrat all of his life, he was a conservative, moderate Democrat, and he was the leader of the conservative, moderate Democrats in Tennessee, and I was too.
Right, right. It's kind of like I guess it's the JFK kind of Democrat, you know, because I think JFK would be considered very conservative in today's environment, you know. And I guess that's kind of what your dad.
No, I think that's true. I'll never forget being at the Democrat National Convention in Los Angeles, California, in 1960, and my mother and dad always take me. I was the oldest. It was myself and my brother Frank, who's a state court of appeals judge, and my brother Gary, and they were a good bit younger than me, 6 years for Frank and 9 years for Gary. So I got to go particularly a lot of places, and I was there at the convention, and my father supported JFK for the Democrat nomination, where Governor Buford Ellington, Democrat, he was supporting supporting Lyndon Johnson.
Right.
And so it was a real battle between Jack Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, who was going to get the Democrat nomination for president in 1960, and Jack Kennedy prevailed, and then he had Lyndon Johnson on the ticket with him.
Right, right. Man, that's just like a wealth of information and knowledge you can get as a young person. I'm sure that kind of propelled you into wanting to get into politics, you know, later on in life. But it just gave you like a wealth of knowledge and around people like that. I mean, that's probably irreplaceable.
Well, it really is, and what Mother and Dad would do, and I encourage families to do this, let your kids be part of the conversation. I was visiting a friend of mine and broke my heart, and we were over at their house, and my friend's son came in the room, and my friend told him, "Get out of here. We're talking," and you know. And then he had his child to leave the room. But my mother and dad would never have done that. Always give us that exposure, Jeff.
Exactly.
And so I didn't get to talk a lot, but I sure got
listened a lot.
I sure got to watch and observe, and it paid big dividends.
Sure. So where did you actually grow up then?
I grew up in Nashville. Okay. Now I did live shortly. A couple of times in Dixon.
Did you?
Yeah. And I went to school, elementary school, here for a short period of time, but practically all my growing up years were in Nashville, and I grew up at the governor's residence.
Yeah, I know. That was interesting, wasn't it?
Now, Jeff, in my speeches, I always mention I grew up in public housing, and people look at me a little funny, not realizing that, or referring to the governor's residence. Now, my father and mother wouldn't let me call it governor's mansion. We always had to call it governor's residence.
Oh, okay.
You know, but we lived there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Only two other men in Tennessee history ever served longer than my father as governor, and that was John Sevier, the first governor,
Yep.
and the third governor, William Carroll, who went out of office in 1835. So since 1835, no one's served as long as governor as Frank G. Clement, and Frank G. Clement's the only governor that Dickson County ever produced.
Now, okay, so when he was governor, there wasn't term limits on the governorship.
Yes, there was. When Dad got elected, you could serve 3 two-year terms.
Gotcha.
But the state constitution had been amended where Dad served the last 2-year term and the first 4-year term.
Gotcha.
But it was limited to then just 1 4-year term.
Right.
And then later the state constitution was amended again, where now the governor of Tennessee can serve 2 4-year terms.
Right, right. So what age were you when you were at the governor's mansion?
I was age 9 to 15,
Wow.
and then Dad went out of office because of term limits
Right.
for 4 years, and then Dad ran for a third term. So I served I lived there from age 9 to age 15, and from age 19 to age 23.
Wow, wow. So have you been back to the governor's mansion lately?
many times.
I guess you kind of reminisce a little bit.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Matter of fact, they still got a lot of my pictures.
Oh, really?
In that conservatory that they have next door to
Right.
the governor's residence, but it's on the grounds of the governor's residence. It's about 12 acres of land, but they got a lot of old pictures of me and my brother Frank and Gary growing up in the governor's residence. We had a pretty big, or I did, pretty big farm operation, because I noticed what they were doing at Tennessee State University, and they had this big agricultural farm. So the president of TSU helped me get set up after Mother and Dad gave me permission. So
Wow.
I had 150 chickens.
On that land there?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
at the governor's. My father and mother used to say that's the only scandal in the Clement administration. Well, my farm operation.
Right.
But I sold eggs to the state employees and
Cool.
neighbors and
Yeah.
anyone I could, 65 cents a dozen. But I had 150 chickens, 50 turkeys, 2 goats. That was my form of transportation around hitched it to a wagon.
Wow.
And I had also 3 horses, Tennessee walking horse, a pinto, and a Shetland pony that was mean.
Yeah.
Real mean.
They can be mean.
And they flat would bite you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been bitten by some.
And then I had started with 3 guinea pigs and ended up with 150 guinea pigs. And then Vanderbilt Jeff wanted to study my guinea pigs.
Oh,
so
really?
I gave my guinea pigs to Vanderbilt.
Cool.
And then I had my worst pet was a monkey.
Wow.
That's the sorriest pet I've ever had. But he didn't live too long because my brother Frank fed it too much candy and
really?
it died.
Yeah. Now, did you grow any crops or anything, like gardening?
No, I never did get into that. The farm operation, ride those horses at the resident, but it was always very close to me. I've always loved land and love farmland and love to get out on. Matter of fact, since I've gotten out of politics, I'm with Mossy Oak Properties now, and what I do mostly is just show farmland, open land, raw land, and in Tennessee.
Right, cool.
And it's been a lot of fun for me.
Now, back then, was there a lot of security around y'all?
Believe it or not, we had no fence. That came after us.
Wow.
And when there'd be riots or there'd be unrest or threats on my father's life, because remember, Dad integrated the schools in Tennessee. Dad had a trooper at every tree. We didn't have a fence.
Right.
That came later, but that was an experience in itself.
I'm
because
sure.
I'd come home and it was, a lot of protection. But we always had a highway patrolman, to be there at all times,
Right.
24 hours a day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
But we also had a lot of prisoners too. We
Oh,
could
really?
talk about. We had 30 prisoners a day. Dad, being a former FBI agent,
Right.
he felt very close about rehabilitation. So he had he had 30 prisoners a day. Cooked the food and cut the grass and all that, and they were my pretty good friends too.
Sure, exactly. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things your dad did as governor. Like you talked about what he did with the schools. Let's talk about that just a little bit.
Okay.
And so stay with us. This is an exciting interview. Again, I'm just excited you being here. So just stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jeff Eby, and I'm running to be your state representative in District 69. I will provide leadership and a voice at the state level for our community. I've been an active leader in Dickson County for 25 years, and I've seen our district continue to experience change, but oftentimes your voice just isn't heard. That will change with my leadership. As a two-term county commissioner, we built the County Justice Center and the Burns Middle School, all while maintaining a budget surplus. We were able to secure additional funding for all of the volunteer fire departments to get the vital equipment that they need to do their job. I fought on the front lines in Iraq. With your vote, I'll fight on the front lines in our community to give you a voice. So today I ask for your vote for state representative in District 69. Together, our voices can continue to have an impact on our community for positive growth and change. Let's do this together.
We all make bad choices. Your insurance carrier doesn't have to be one of them. Make a choice you won't regret. The foremost choice.
Are you looking for your dream home? Well, Lee Realty Group guarantees you the perfect home. With our expert agents that have over 100 years of combined experience, you are assured 100% customer satisfaction. If you are buying or selling, Lee Realty Group is your local veteran-owned real estate company. Contact us now at 615-446-2006 or online at LeeRealtyGroupOnline.com. Like us on Facebook at Lee Realty Group.
We all make bad choices. Your insurance carrier doesn't have to be one of them. Make the choice you won't regret. The foremost choice.
We welcome you back to the Jeff Eby Show. I'm your host, Jeff Eby, where the talk is all about Dickson County. And today we're just excited that we have former Congressman Bob Clement on our show today, and we've already had some great discussion. But before we left, we were talking a little bit about your dad's administration, kind of some of the things, some of the big changes that he made that were, a tremendous asset for the state. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, Jeff, when my father, Frank G. Clement, went to school, elementary school and high school here in Dixon, he noticed a lot of the kids didn't have textbooks because their families couldn't afford to buy textbooks, and they had to look over the shoulder of another kid to get an education. Hard to believe.
Right. So back then, all the students had to buy their own textbooks, right?
In the 50s,
Right.
yeah, and before. And Dad would tell his classmates, I'm going to be governor of Tennessee one day. He started saying that when he was 16 years old.
Wow.
And everything he said from the time he was age 16 to age 32 was toward that one goal and objective. I'm going to be governor of Tennessee. And
Wow.
the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to have free textbooks. I'm going to get it through the state legislature, free textbooks for all the kids in public education. And he did that because he felt strongly that we have to educate the people of Tennessee. How can I recruit industry, not only from the U.S., but all over the world,
Right.
which he did, if we don't educate our kids?
Right.
And 80% of his tax program, and he got criticized severely in his third term for raising taxes, even though it was needed, but 80% of the tax program went for education.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he was a big supporter of that. I was talking to somebody today actually about that, and the kids, they're our future for this county, for this state, and if we don't do a good job at providing effective education for them, then we're losing. We can't do anything. So there was a couple other things that he did as governor.
Well, community colleges, technical schools, he established those in Tennessee because he didn't feel like you had to go all the way to Memphis or all the way to Knoxville to get an education.
Right.
And so he founded the community colleges and technical
Wow, I didn't know
schools
that.
in Tennessee. Big deal, too. And then civil rights was on his watch,
Right.
too. And boy, that was tough too.
Yeah, I know, because back during that time, especially in the South, there was a lot of controversy about that.
And he took the position as long as I'm governor, no federal marshals or troops are going to march in Tennessee. We're going to solve our problems by Tennesseans. And Governor Wallace in Alabama called Dad to join the Southern Coalition
Right.
to keep blacks from going to school with whites.
Right.
And Governor Faubus in Arkansas called my father to keep blacks from going to, or African Americans to go into school
Right.
together. But Dad took the position, we're not going to have federal marshals, troops march in Tennessee like they did
Yes.
in Alabama,
Yep, exactly.
like they did in Arkansas and other places. We're going to solve our problems by Tennesseans. So Dad would travel the state extensively, speaking to civic clubs, church groups, all that, just to explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, and et cetera. Because you did have a federal court mandate,
Right.
too,
Right.
to integrate the schools, but a lot of the South was resisting severely moving in that direction.
Right. Yeah, he was just like on the cutting edge of just seems like everything.
He was for some reason he had that creative spirit, but you think about being 32 years of age to have that much political courage. That's what's lacking in politics
No
today.
doubt.
Because a lot of politicians, I hate to say, are looking at the next election rather than the next generation.
Yeah, and I say this, and a lot of their decisions are based upon who gives them money, when really the decisions should be made on how the citizens feel and, represent your citizens like you should, right? You know, I've watched some of the stuff going on at the state right now, and, you know, you can't understand why certain bills don't even make it out of committee until you see who's giving the money to these people. So, you know, part of me running as a state representative, I've vowed that, you know, I'm not going to take special interest money. I want to be supported only by the citizens, you know, and that way I can represent them the way they should be represented, not represent some big corporation or whatever. You know?
Well, I remember when I was in Congress, congressional session's over 2 years before you have a new Congress. I went in the 100th Congress, but only 3% of the bills introduced became law. So, I mean, it's very difficult. It's a lot easier to kill a bill than it is to
get it all the way through.
Get it through.
Yeah.
And what I would do when I'd introduce a bill, I'd not only introduce it, but I'd be its campaign manager, coordinator.
Yeah.
I'd get people to sign up as co-sponsors and all that to make sure it passed, just like I did with the airport. Matter of fact, in my first full term as a congressman, I got over $100 million for the Nashville International Airport.
Right.
And so we would have a first-class airport, and I was on the aviation committee.
Wow.
So
So you made that whole change to the
matter of
airport.
fact, well, American Airlines let me down, U.S. Air let me down, and I told Herb Kelleher, who was the founder of Southwest Airlines, I said, "This is your opportunity." And he jumped on it, too, and that's why Southwest has such a major
presence here in the
benefit
South. Yeah.
and to our area because they fly everywhere.
I want to finish up with your dad a little bit, and then I want to get on to all the awesome things you did as a congressman and through your life. But so when he went to college, correct me if I'm wrong, he went to college and law school at the same time, right?
No.
Okay.
When he graduated from Dixon County High School, he went to Cumberland University. And Cumberland, of all things, that's where I was president.
Yeah, I know. I want to talk about
years
that here
later.
in a minute.
But he went to Cumberland, and he got. And at that time, you didn't have to finish college, but you had to have so many credits before you could go to law school.
Gotcha.
So he got enough credits at Cumberland University. Then he applied at Vanderbilt University Law School and was accepted.
Wow.
But he had already finished college and law school before he's age 21.
What?
And matter of fact, even in law school, Vanderbilt, he had finished 2 years, and he noticed there's no prohibition against taking the bar exam. So he took the bar exam a year earlier because he had gotten married to my mother, Lucille Christensen from Erin, Tennessee.
Right.
And got married, and man, he was having a hard time making a living and all that. So he took the bar exam after the second year and made one of the highest grades ever attained.
Wow.
So he was going to law school and practicing law, at the same time. And then he was accepted in the FBI when he was 21 years of age. He was the youngest FBI agent in the United States.
So now how long did he do that?
He was there a very short period of time because what he did, he told the Dixon County local draft board, when my name comes up, he could have gotten a waiver and stayed in the FBI. But he said, when my name comes up, I'm not asking for a waiver. Draft me. Wow. And what J. Edgar Hoover, who's director of the FBI, appreciated so much, a lot of FBI agents were taking direct commissions to go into the military. And Dad did not. He went in as a buck private and went through OCS and then commissioned a second lieutenant.
Wow.
And so Dad served not only in World War II, but the Korean crisis as well. And then served in the Army Guard and the Air Guard.
Mm-hmm. And so after that is when he kind of got into politics then, right?
Yeah, but remember now, even at age 16 here in Dixon, he's telling people, I'm going to run for governor of Tennessee. So, and he was serious about it too, and every move he made was in that direction. That's why I tell young people when I make a lot of speeches, I tell young people the earlier you make up your mind what you want to do in life, the better you'll do.
I know.
Because a lot of kids just wander, you know, and try to focus if you can. Right. And I know it's difficult for a number of them, knowing what you're going to do, because no matter where you start to work, that's not going to where you're going to end up anymore. Absolutely. Years ago, you might have stayed on the farm all your life, but you're not going to do that anymore.
No.
So Dad made up his mind. He wanted to go into politics. So he was state commander of the American Legion. He was state president of the Young Democrats, and so he had made a lot of contacts around the state. It just didn't happen. Plus, being a great orator paid big dividends in a lot of ways.
Do you have any like recordings or anything of any of his speeches?
Oh, yeah, even the keynote speech. Matter of fact, we show it at the Clement Museum here in Dixon. How long, oh, how long? Dad spoke for 55 minutes. It was in Chicago in 1956. And he ended his speech, how long, oh, how long? And the Chicago Tribune, Republican newspaper, said, well, Clement spoke for 55 minutes, but it seemed a hell of a lot longer than that. And Dad would tell that on himself.
I'm sure, yeah.
You know, as a politician, if you can tell stories on yourself, it goes over better than
That's true.
About other people.
That's true. All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we get back, I want to kind of shift gears and let's talk about kind of your life going through the military and then your political career, how it kind of got started. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jeff Eby, and I'm running to be your state representative in District 69. I will provide leadership and a voice at the state level for our community. I've been an active leader in Dixon County for 25 years, and I've seen our district continue to experience change, but oftentimes your voice just isn't heard. That will change with my leadership. As a two-term county commissioner, we built the County Justice Center and the Burns Middle School, all while maintaining a budget surplus. We were able to secure additional funding for all of the volunteer fire departments to get the vital equipment that they need to do their job. I fought on the front lines in Iraq. With your vote, I'll fight on the front lines in our community to give you a voice. So today I ask for your vote for state representative in District 69. Together, our voices can continue to have an impact on our community for positive growth and change. Let's do this together.
We all make bad choices. Your insurance carrier doesn't have to be one of them. Make a choice you won't regret. The foremost choice.
We welcome you back to the Jeff Eby Show. I'm your host, Jeff Eby, and today we're just ecstatic about having Bob Clement here with us. And we've been talking mainly about kind of your dad and the impact he had on Tennessee and kind of some of the awesome stuff that he did. But I want to shift gears and kind of talk about your career a little bit. Mm-hmm. I know that you went through the ROTC program, right?
I did, University of Tennessee.
Yeah, and I wanted to show this book. Presidents, Kings, and Convicts is a book that he wrote. Let's see, there you go. And it's very interesting. I got through most of it, and it's just a lot of information. So I encourage people to go. I guess they can get that on Amazon, right?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
Okay.
Clement Museum,
Cool.
etc. So
Cool.
it was on my bucket list, Jeff, of things to do in my life, and I didn't want to run out of time. And,
Yeah.
and you don't have to write a book, but all of us really have an obligation to share with our family, friends. What do we stand for? What
Right.
do we believe in? What do
Right.
we care about?
Exactly.
And so I wrote this book, and it's Presidents, Kings, and Convicts. The reason is I've met every president from Harry Truman all the way through Obama. I did miss Mr. Trump, never had that opportunity, but met all the others. And then Kings, met a lot of royal family, including Queen Elizabeth and all that, but also the King, Elvis Presley, that performed at the governor's residence.
Are you serious?
Yeah, just for the family, whatever. And,
Right.
And the prisoners, we had a great, Dad utilized them a lot at the governor's residence. The prisoners, they all had 99-year sentences, so they had plenty of time to practice.
Yeah,
but they
I
were
would say.
great entertainers.
Yeah, I know,
And could
yeah.
sing. And the lead singer wrote the song "Just Walking in the Rain" that was made famous and all that. And then Convicts, as I mentioned a while ago, Dad worked about 30 prisoners a day, and so
Right.
we had highway patrol and prisoners at the residence, but highway patrol had a job to do, but the prisoners would play basketball and football with me. So as a young kid, I didn't know which group I liked
That's
the best.
true. Or which group you could trust the most.
Yeah,
right?
but then I get heavy into fixing Congress, fixing America, and giving recommendations about how we can get out of this mess.
Sure. So where'd you go to college?
Went to University of Tennessee undergraduate, and then I got my MBA from University of Memphis, or back then was Memphis State University. And then I was halfway through my doctorate degree, Education Administration, Public Finance at UT, but I got the bug to run for political office.
Yeah.
So I ran for the Public Service Commission, statewide elected office in 1972, and the rest is history.
Right. So from there, is that when you ran for Congress after that?
Well,
stint?
I served 6 years on the Public Service Commission, and then President Jimmy Carter appointed me to the TVA Board of Directors.
Yeah, I read that, yeah.
And I served there, and then I became president of Cumberland University in Lebanon, and I served there 4.5 years, and then I resigned there to run for Congress, and I served 15 years in Congress, and so I operated between 5th Congressional District and Nashville area, basically, and
Right.
Robertson County,
Right.
and then it was in D.C. every week and all that, and so, but served 8 terms. And then now I'm in the real estate business, and the rest is history, as stated.
Yeah, I was reading that when you were coming up for confirmation to be the director of the TVA, you had somebody who really opposed you.
Oh, gosh. And it was partially my fault, too, because there was an issue right after I was appointed, but not, well, I was nominated, but I hadn't been confirmed yet.
No, that was with
by the
through
U.S.
Jimmy
Senate.
Carter,
By
right?
U.S. Senate. I was just appointed or nominated by Jimmy Carter, and there was an issue about moving TVA headquarters from Knoxville, Tennessee, from Tennessee to Alabama, to Marshall Shoals, where TVA has a lot of assets too.
They got a big dam down
So
there, I think. Yeah.
Senator Hal Heflin, Democrat from Alabama, great guy, but we weren't too great at that time. But I had made a comment before my confirmation hearing in D.C. I said, well, and a reporter asked me about TVA and all that. And I said, well, the headquarters has always been in Tennessee, and that's where most of the assets are, even though we serve 7 states.
Right.
I don't see any reason to move it from Tennessee to Alabama. Well, that's all Senator Heflin needed, and he went on the attack. And to make sure I didn't get on the board and all that.
Right.
But when it came to a final vote, it was 99-1 for me.
There you go.
But it was funny because Senator Heflin, after the fact, and he really did go after me. Mm-hmm. But after the fact, he said, we met, and Senator Heflin says, you know, Bob, it really helped me in Alabama being against you. And I talked to Senator Jim Sasser in Tennessee, and he said it really helped him in Tennessee being for you. I said, well, Senator Heflin, I'm so pleased both of you came out so well at my expense.
Yeah, I know, right?
But I got to love Senator Heflin after that, and the rest of the time on the TVA board, I couldn't have asked for anyone more supportive.
Now, how was that going through confirmation? I know because we see, some of that on Tennessee, and it can get kind of brutal.
Tough. It was tough. Well, it was tough because of Senator Heflin going after me.
So he sat on the committee that was asking you questions?
Yes,
he
was.
Yeah.
But Senator Howard Baker was on that same committee,
Right.
and he was okay with me. And then you had Senator Lloyd Benson, who was chairman out of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I remember
he
him. Yeah.
was very supportive, and so I had a lot of support on the confirmation hearings. But the U.S. Senate has to vote
Right.
on TVA nominees, and so but you better be prepared when you go before the committee.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, what kind of like time wise was that, like a 2 or 3 day ordeal?
No. For mine, it's different.
Okay.
If it's judiciary or TVA appointment, mine was just one day.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that was probably a little bit better, I guess, than
No, it sure was. but it took forever to get from the nomination to
the full House
confirmation
Senate for a
hearings
vote,
and them voting on you.
Right.
I mean, it's a very timely process, and you have to prepare and meet with the White House staff and all that. So it's an ordeal.
Right. So you were saying you have met all these presidents.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say that they're different or alike in any respect for the ones that you met?
No, all of them were different.
Really?
Totally different.
Yeah.
The one I worked with more than any was President Bill Clinton. I worked with him a lot, and
that's when you were in
But
Congress,
I
right?
served under 4 presidents. When I got elected to U.S. Congress in '88, it was President Ronald Reagan. Matter of fact, he had me in his office the first week.
Really?
Which I really appreciated too. He being a Republican,
Right.
me being a Democrat, and I told him I'd try to work with him, which I did, as much as I possibly could, because I always took the position, Jeff, whether you're Democrat or Republican, heck, we need to solve problems, and we need to reach across the aisle. And it's hard to believe, when I was in Congress, we would have retreats on the weekend about civility. How do you attack the issue without attacking one another,
Right.
whether you be a Democrat or Republican? And now in Congress, they spend more time attacking one another than solving problems. It's very sad, because I go up there now, and I still go up there. I'm on the board for former members. Congress. I think we're a lot more popular than the current members.
I bet you are.
But I was elected by the former members to
Right.
be on the board. Matter of fact, we're getting ready to have a big meeting in New York City. I've got to go up there shortly.
Yeah, I heard, back when you were in Congress that, y'all would, the both sides of the aisles would argue their position or whatever, But afterwards, it was like y'all were still friends or whatever.
Absolutely.
But now it don't even seem that there's any of that.
And we kept those lines of communication open. And now I'm telling you, they don't speak to one another. They don't like one another. They don't trust one another.
Right.
It's a total disconnect.
Right.
And I'll tell you part of it, and matter of fact, I mention it in my book. Part of it is they've shortened the schedule. We used to work from Monday to Friday. Now they fly in on Tuesday and leave on Thursday. Now, if I don't know you, and how are we going to work together?
Exactly.
How are we gonna build those relationships? And that's what you got now, because they don't know one another, don't care to know one another, and they don't work with one another.
And then they have less time and make more money. So that really makes a lot of sense, right?
Make what?
Make more money than what you did when you were in Congress, I'm sure. But
Well, you're limited on what you can do on active income. You're very limited.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't. It's a full-time job.
Oh, yeah.
Democrat or Republican, and so you've got to follow the rules and regulations, and they're pretty tough, and you better be very careful.
So how was it when you got elected and then you go up to D.C., how was that like? How was that feeling, like getting up there? And
Well, it's the greatest job experience I've ever had. I'm in my 7th career change. When I make speeches, I tell people I'm sure need a lot of help to hold a job.
Yeah.
I hadn't had 7 job changes. I've had 7 career changes.
Right.
And so I've done a lot of different things in my life, and I'm not so sure, Jeff, you don't grow more through adversity than you do through success.
Right.
And but even now, I'm out of politics really and all that. I'm not going to run for anything else. But
Maybe you should. I don't know.
Nah, maybe should, but I don't think my wife would.
That's
go
true.
along.
That's true.
My aunt, Annabelle Clement O'Brien, used to tell, and she grew up here in Dixon too.
Mm-hmm.
She was state senator from Crossville, but she'd say, telling people about Bob, says, "Don't ask him to run twice or he'll run." So I don't know.
All right. Well, we're going to take one last break, and when we get back, I know this time just flies by, and we have so much I wish we could talk about, but I kind of want to just finish up with what you're doing now, kind of the things that you're involved with. I know you're on a lot of boards and things of that nature, but let's talk a little bit about that and where you kind of see the rest of your life, what you're going to be doing. So stay with us. We'll be right back. As a 2-term county commissioner, we built the County Justice Center and the Burns Middle School, all while maintaining a budget surplus. We were able to secure additional funding for all of the volunteer fire departments to get the vital equipment that they need to do their job. I fought on the front lines in Iraq. With your vote, I'll fight on the front lines in our community to give you a voice. Let's do this together.
We all make bad choices. Your insurance carrier doesn't have to be one of them. Make a choice you won't regret. The foremost choice.
Are you looking for your dream home? Well, Lee Realty Group guarantees you the perfect home. With our expert agents that have over 100 years of combined experience, you are assured 100% customer satisfaction. If you are buying or selling, Lee Realty Group is your local veteran-owned real estate company. Contact us now at 615-446-2006 or online at LeeRealtyGroupOnline.com. Like us on Facebook at Lee Realty Group.
Hi, I'm Jeff Eby, and I'm running to be your state representative in District 69. I will provide leadership and a voice at the state level for our community. I've been an active leader in Dickson County for 25 years, and I've seen our district continue to experience change, but oftentimes your voice just isn't heard. That will change with my leadership. We welcome you back to the Jeff Eby Show. I'm your host, Jeff Eby, and we're kind of finishing up our talk with former Congressman Bill Clement, Bob Clement. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway,
I've worn you out.
Yeah,
Jeff.
no, not at all. There was so much more we could talk about, and I know we got a limited amount of time, but I kind of wanted to just see kind of where you are now. You know, you're retired, but not retired. I know you're still involved in a lot of things, especially with the museum. I know that's an awesome thing we have here in Dickson County. So talk a little bit with us about kind of what your plans are and what you're involved with now.
Well, Jeff, I don't think I'll ever retire because I got to have structure in my life.
Sure.
I mean, everybody's different. I just can't sit on the sofa and all that. And so I spent a lot of time on the Clement Museum because we started with nothing. We had this old dilapidated building that they were about to tear down, and we raised the money to renovate it and all that, and then June the 2nd, 2009, we opened the doors and all that. And the Clement Museum is capture the history of Dixon, capture the history of Tennessee, capture about education and transportation and civil rights and healthcare, and we can go on and on about that, but it's a multi-purpose facility.
Sure.
Matter of fact, we have a rental program, and we have weddings there and receptions there and all that, and so whenever the community needs a facility like that, they can knock on our door, and we'll try our best to work it out. And we got a big event coming up soon, June the 2nd. Darrell James is the chairman of that. He's former president of the Clement Museum, the Economic Community Lecture Series focusing on rural development in Tennessee. And you can get more details from our director from the Clement Museum, but it's on June the 2nd at 6 o'clock and public invited.
Okay, cool. Well, we can dovetail into this because maybe people can go there and then they can come to my kickoff event, which is going to be June the 2nd down at Events on Main. So,
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
What time's yours?
It's 6 o'clock, but it'll last, till everybody leaves or whatever, But
we didn't mean to be competing with you.
That's awesome because people can go to both or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, Jeff, it takes a lot of courage to run for public office.
Yeah, I'm finding that out. Right?
And I really it does. And I know you serve well and ably as county commissioner and all that. I know what you're going through, and I'll never forget putting my name on the ballot once upon a time. And because I wanted to work for the Public Service Commission, and the chairman of the Public Service Commission wouldn't hire me or wouldn't call me back and all that. And I said, well, I'll just run against him.
There you go. That's
and
what you do, right?
And I got 76% of the vote, and so everything worked out. And
yeah, and on this show, we have a lot of different guests from Dickson County and some other places, but we try to emphasize the fact that all politics are local, right? And you need to get involved at the local level. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who don't know who their county commissioner is or don't know who their state representative is, and we're trying to change that. Even the school board, people complain about the schools, but then they don't even know who their school board members are, And what we're trying to do here is try to encourage people, to vote, get out and vote, get involved in the community, get involved with the Clement Railroad Museum, get involved in these things in our city and our county that make a difference to everyday people's lives.
Well, Jeff, it breaks my heart when I hear someone say, I'll ask them if they vote or register to vote, and they say, no, I don't do that. And I said, how come? He said, well, it doesn't make any difference. My vote and voice is not important. And I always tell them, well, if you feel that way, nothing will change.
Exactly.
And you got to be involved. I'll never forget Annabelle Clement O'Brien that we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. And people would come to see her over and over about, Annabelle or Senator, I need you to help me do this or help me do that. And then she'd ask them, well, are you registered to vote? Or no, I'm not registered to vote. Annabelle says, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. You go register to vote, and I'll help you.
Yep, there you go. There you go.
And she, because she got a little sick and tired and weary of helping people, and they don't even vote, whether they vote Democrat, whether they vote Republican or Independent or whatever.
Right.
We all ought to vote.
Exactly. And it's so simple to register to vote. So I encourage people, if you haven't registered, you still got time to register before the August 4th election. All you have to do, you can do it online. You can go down to the Election Commission, get your little form. There's not that much to it, right?
No, there's not.
And then you just show up to vote. You early vote, or you show up at the precinct to vote. It's our public duty to do that. If we want to make any changes or have a say in anything that goes on in the public arena, to do that, I mean, that's the one thing we can do, and I don't understand people who don't do that.
No, I don't either, and I really don't, and I try to encourage as much as possible, and I realize people get very negative toward politics, but as we were talking about Annabelle Clement O'Brien in her speeches, and I've never heard anyone say this as long as I live, she's talking about politics because people do have a very negative connotation about politics. But Annabelle would always say, politics builds schools. Politics builds roads. Yep. Politics is compromise, and there's a lot of truth in that statement.
Yeah, it really is. So you do the Clement Museum. What are
well, and then also I mentioned about in the real estate
that's right,
business, and I don't show houses. I don't have the patience for that either. And I got affiliated with Mossy Oak Properties, person that got the Tennessee franchise, Jamie Spencer, younger guy and all that, and we do it together.
Sure.
He's got 25 years experience, and I'm Johnny come lately. And so,
I know, but you got a lot of experience in life.
I know that, and I got my college degree in real estate and all that, but still selling real estate, commercial, residential, I mean,
it's a job.
It's complicated. It's a job. So we show land and farmland, raw land in Tennessee only. But it's been I've really enjoyed it.
Good.
I really have, because I guess all the way back to the governor's residence when I raised chickens and turkeys and goats and all that, I sort of enjoyed, and I bought land myself over the years and sold it and all that. So
good.
I enjoy the experience. But also, as I mentioned, I'm on the board of the former members of Congress, and that's most challenging and all that. And I do stay in touch with former members and current members for that, and try to make a difference in people's lives. And I feel like we all have a responsibility there, whether we're elected or appointed or just as a citizen, to speak up and speak out. And I'll always do that the rest of my life.
Well, I just want to say, you just don't know how much I appreciate you coming by and talking with us for a few minutes today. It's just been a joy, to talk. I know you've got a really history in politics, and it's just a joy for me to hear your story about, how you got involved in that and with your dad and everything. And I just really appreciate you coming by. I really do.
Well, Jeff, I really appreciate being on the Jeff Eby
There
Show.
you go. There you go.
This is a big deal for me, and
Well,
I've
good.
been looking very forward to it
Good.
too. And I think you really offer a real niche and a real, and it's needed too for
Yeah.
information
Right.
about what's going on in Dixon County, what's
Right.
going on in the world.
And there, a lot of people are moving in from other states into this area, and our goal is to give people a forum to go back and listen to, the mayors or the sheriff or, the judges or some of these people to kind of just see how the system works, and get people involved. So, but we really appreciate it. So I just want to say one thing about, I know you're going to have your thing on June the 2nd, but I also invite people to come out to my kickoff fundraiser on Thursday, June the 2nd. At 6 p.m., we're going to have food, we're going to have some music, and I think we're going to have a really good time. So I just invite everybody, if you could RSVP so we can just kind of get a number for how many people we're going to have as far as food, so I can have enough food for everybody. I would really appreciate it. Also, please, if you would share this video, because that's one of the most important things we can do. Share this video, because I want as many people as can see our conversation and see what how much involvement you've been in our community and really making an impact on the community. And I really appreciate, by the way. So like and share this video. If you're watching it on Facebook, on YouTube, you can like it and give me the thumbs up and just tell people about this so we can get as many people watching as possible. We really appreciate it. So also, last week I said that you could watch this on Spotify while you're going down the road. That isn't entirely true. You can actually listen to it on Spotify as you go down the road. So, so we've got that outlet for people as they're driving. They can just turn on Spotify and they can listen to our conversation. So we appreciate it. You're going to see me out on the campaign trail. Please go to my website, votejeffeby.com, for more information about the events I'm going to be at. And so everybody's going to see me quite a bit around here at festivals and all kinds of stuff. So when you see me, just come up. You can ask me questions, and I'll be glad to answer as much as I can. So thank you again for watching. We will see you next week. We still got 3 or 4 more shows that are very exciting I'm looking forward to. So stay tuned, and we will see you next week.